This is my AGM report to the Liberal Synagogue Elstrie's annual general meeting, which took place on the 27th of May 2021. Some of you may remember a fictional PR company that I invented more than 15 years ago. It was called Global Marketing Incorporated. Its motto was, if the people don't want it, it ain't gonna happen. They featured in a series of 5 sermons which I wrote, not knowing where they would lead. This imaginary company was asked to promote the Liberal Synagogue Elstree, but they turned the question around and asked me what the Liberal Synagogue Elstree is and what it's for. I actually couldn't answer the question, and as the text flowed from my keyboard, the board members of Global Marketing Incorporated got up and walked out, saying that they couldn't help me until I could tell them what TLSE and the liberal Judaism it represented was and what was its purpose. I was shocked by this development. As I read it on Yom Kippur morning, I suddenly felt vulnerable and lost and alone. One congregant said she thought I was just going to say, well, sod this, and walk out. But I've hung on for another decade and a half, plus an extra year thanks to COVID, and if those same PR executives were to turn up now, assuming they all still had jobs, to ask the same question, I'm still not sure what my answer would be. What is TLSE? What is liberal Judaism? And what is it for? I suppose I would begin by telling them about 2 events, of which I'm particularly proud. The first was on Sunday the 6th of May 2007. It was the Sunday morning of a bank holiday weekend. It was also the Jewish mini-festival of Lag BaOmer. It was billed as a fun community morning, and there were bagels, hot drinks and chocolate bars on offer, table tennis, snooker and our brand new state-of-the-art Wii computer. There were Sunday papers to read. 100 people came along. It was, for me, the vision of what I wanted this synagogue to be, a centre for the community where all generations could meet, eat and share time together. Grandparents playing games with grandchildren. Groups of parents discussing current affairs or whatever over coffee. This was a response to the global marketing people. The other response took place 2.5 years later. It was the 9th of October 2009. It was a Friday night and it was Simchat Torah. 7 musically talented teenagers and an overweight aging hippie lined up in front of 120 congregants of all ages for the first performance of the Shul of Rock. I had arranged for the purchase of our PA equipment, an electronic drum kit and specially designed t-shirts for the band. By a ridiculous coincidence, the BBC were present filming the event, and a clip from it even showed up on a Sunday morning broadcast 3 weeks ago. Like the fun morning 30 months earlier, it was a fantastic success. And what came next? A Shul of Rock service was scheduled for the second Friday of every month. The numbers diminished, the group members had other things to do, and by February 2010, it was all over. A Fun Day Sunday, as it came to be known, was put into the religion school calendar on the first Sunday of every month. Numbers diminished, and by the end of 2007, Fun Day Sunday had become a monthly opportunity for the religion school kids to play games instead of learning, while their parents went and did something else. I think that the response of the global marketing people would have been, if the rabbi wants it, it will happen once. Then it will stop. See our logo. At least I had an answer to the question of what I wanted TLSE to be. But although I wanted it and made it happen, the people didn't want it more than once, so it didn't happen again. In the decade and more since that Shul of Rock performance, religion school numbers are down. High Holy Day service attendance is down. Attendance at Shabbat services is up, thanks to the school points system that runs from May to October every year. Between November and April, Numbers are down. Numbers joining for bar mitzvah ceremonies and mixed faith blessings are up. Numbers leaving after bar mitzvah ceremonies and mixed faith blessings are equal to that. Of course, there have been highlights. I've guided over 100 people round Berlin, and discussions in the adult education class inspired my latest book. But in general, involvement in synagogue life has diminished and continues to do so. This is not unique to TLSE. To a greater or lesser extent, organised religion as a whole is suffering from a lack of interest and commitment. This apparent apathy will always be more pronounced in liberal Judaism. Genuine Orthodox Judaism is made up of individuals and families whose lives are built around and shaped by the Jewish calendar. The lives of liberal Jews are not. An Orthodox Jew will check the calendar before booking a holiday in September to ensure it won't clash with Yom Kippur. A liberal Jew will book the holiday and then be mildly embarrassed if it clashes, but go anyway. Indeed, in some cases, those Jews who have children at Jewish schools may well deliberately pick a Jewish festival for their holiday, as they know their child will be off school. Added to this lack of awareness of or commitment to the Jewish calendar and the life it demands is the fact that the pace of our current society effectively prevents individuals from volunteering in any capacity. This sharply impacts religious congregations. Whereas previous generations speak proudly of their voluntary commitment to their synagogue, those currently aged, say, 25 to 50, simply do not have the time to give. Both partners in a couple may work. They may be separated. Their children have complex issues, and so do their parents. Life is not as simple as it once was. Roles are confused and time-consuming. This is an age that actively reduces opportunities for volunteering. It's no good the older generation complaining about it. It's a fact. But here at the Liberal Synagogue Elstree, there are further factors that actively discourage volunteering. In my 18 years, I've persuaded individuals to join the Synagogue Council, only to see them bewildered by a lack of process or direction, an absence of anything tangible into which their enthusiasm might be channeled. Their interest fades, and the limited amount of available time that they might have been able to devote to the synagogue is directed somewhere else. This is partly due to that liberal Jewish detachment from Judaism, but also the same challenge thrown at me by Global Marketing Incorporated. What is the Liberal Synagogue Elstree, and what is it for? Perhaps the answer might come from our website, the place where we tell the world who we are and what we stand for. But despite lengthy council discussions and proposals, our website hasn't changed since 2011. Occasionally, a project will get off the ground, but it needs a determined individual to make it happen. That person may try to enlist the help of others, but volunteers don't have the time, they don't have the interest, they frankly don't have any connection or association with the synagogue beyond their child's education, as they're not invested in its vision, its potential, or its future. Recently, the redecoration of the sanctuary happened. Discussions about it began over 6 years ago. No decisions were made. Committees were formed and disbanded. £8,000 was spent on an architect, and eventually it was picked up by one individual. A committee of volunteers was established. Someone on that committee told me that the only people taking an active part were the ones who made the same decisions 25 years ago. The results will be wonderful, but the entire process has been characterized by a complete lack of communication with the shul's employees and other committees, and almost ruined the bar mitzvah ceremonies of the sons of two long-standing and committed member families. Now the Liberal Synagogue Elstree has a shiny new sanctuary of which we can be proud, but we're still no closer to knowing what we're for. In more recent years, my thinking and my focus has changed. A synagogue community is not about projects or events. It's about people. And looking back now, I can see the most valuable moments in my time here have come from the relationships and the connections I have established with families, with individuals in those families, as I have had the privilege to accompany them through various life cycle moments, happy or sad, but always challenging and rewarding. The question then is how to offer opportunities in the life of the synagogue that make that experience possible for all members, not just me and one family at a time. Listen up, you global marketing people. About 6 years ago, I started something called The Big Conversation. Looking back on it, I've decided that it was one of my better ideas. Like so many other things, not least due to my inability to delegate, it lost momentum. But this reaching out to congregants and engaging in individual conversation with them is surely the key to understanding what the liberal synagogue Elstree is for. Find out from the people what they actually want, and then try to make it happen. Just over 2 years ago, I stepped outside my rabbinic role and effectively disbanded the synagogue council. My vision, shared with ever fewer council members, was to make monthly council meetings focus on specific topics rather than repeat the same agenda every month. In February 2019, 25 people came to a meeting on a Sunday morning to plan events for our anniversary year. The following month, more than 40 people attended 2 separate meetings to discuss the provision of care for members of the community. In April, there was a regular council meeting to review progress. In May, a remarkable event that brought together more than a dozen parents of teenage children to take part in an emotional conversation about family issues. Meaningful connections, deepening relationships, community. Then I smashed my knee and was effectively sidelined for several months. In June 2019, we became a charitable incorporated organisation. The council was replaced by a board of trustees, and there hasn't been a similar meeting since, either in person or online. But the big conversation has proved that it is possible to engage with synagogue members in a meaningful way. And there has just been a golden opportunity to restart this. 15 months ago, in February 2020, I gave my notice. Thanks to COVID, a new rabbi was not appointed until 11 months later. During that time, there could and should have been a consultation process with different elements within the congregation about what they wanted from their rabbi, and by extension, from their synagogue. But young parents, empty nesters, university students, the elderly, the whole range of TLSE members could have been invited and encouraged to join discussions about what they thought TLSE was and what they wanted it to be, involving them in the process of appointing a new rabbi. The sort of process of which Global Marketing Incorporated would have approved. And we have a new rabbi. Of course, the choice of rabbi is the right one. That's not the issue. The issue is that members could have been able to say, my opinion about what I want from a rabbi has been heard, so I have a stake in this process. Instead, a small group of people representing a tiny part of the TLSE demographic conducted the interview and, after reporting back to the trustees, made the appointment. 2 members of that panel interviewed me 20 years ago. Is it any wonder that the vast majority of our membership feels it has no connection with the synagogue? In their eyes, everything is decided and implemented by an invisible and unknown group of people. As we continue to struggle to work out what the Liberal Synagogue Elstree is for, we need to ask who, if anyone, is going to be making those decisions in 25 years' time. The world has changed immeasurably in the past 25 years, never mind the 52 since this congregation was established, and so has the model of the synagogue. A building to which people send their children for religious education, for bar bat mitzvah preparation and celebration, and for youth activities, is history. Its role as a place for families to attend religious services, adult education programs, and social events on a regular basis doesn't exist anymore. In the past year, thanks to lockdown, there's not been a service or a meeting of any kind or activity in our building. Yet bonds between some elements of the congregation and even non-members have been strengthened. We have learned that we do not need to be in our building for community to happen. Many people have enjoyed online services, and add to that COVID-related concerns about meeting together communally, the likely numbers wanting to use our building will be even fewer. But the bonds of friendship, of mutual support, of community that have developed through online gatherings should give pause for thought. The creation and use of a virtual community is challenging. In the past year, we and others have demonstrated that it is possible. From the virtual gatherings, deliberately so named to remove the stigma apparently attached to the word service, have come new connections between different individuals of all ages, backgrounds, and geographical locations. Some 40 devices are logged on Erev Shabbat. Perhaps the viewers are making their dinner, perhaps they're reading the paper, but they're connected. And online, there are 80-year-olds wishing 4-year-olds happy birthday, and via their parents, vice versa. Someone has a yard site and receives wishes for a long life, or an appropriate caring emoji. Would those same people attend a Friday night service in our shul building? Of course not. Some are in the Midlands, some in Scotland, some even in the United States. And even those in Boreham Wood or Radlett would probably prefer to stay in the warmth of their homes. And the capacity for virtual conversations to take place online also suggests a way forward for the synagogue. Many people cannot spare an entire evening to attend a physical meeting in a specific location. But to sit down at a computer for 40 minutes or even watch a recording of it in one's own time and offer comments opens up the possibility of far greater involvement in the development of this community than waiting years for projects to get off the ground, be left to one individual, or be abandoned. The potential of organising community in this way must be properly explored. It simply isn't enough just to transfer a regular committee meeting to a computer screen. If 2 Jews have 3 opinions, imagine how many views 500 plus will have. So don't drag them to pointless committee meetings. Talk to them. Arrange shared online conversations for different demographic groups on what people want from TLSE, why they joined it, and what their Judaism means to them. As this rambling journey through the last 18 years has shown, it took me some years to come to the conclusion that community is actually all about people. It's not about changing the language in prayer books or referring to God as a woman. It's not about reaching out to ever more marginalized minorities. It's not even about what color should the synagogue sanctuary be painted. It's about intertwining the lives of individuals and families, creating mutual support networks and shared interests, offering depth and meaning to the increasingly shallow lives we are all being encouraged to lead. It's about enabling individuals to find human comfort and consolation in a troubled and lonely world. That is what community is about. That is what religion is about. And the creation of ways in which that can happen will tell us what the Liberal Synagogue Elstree is for. My time at TLSE is done. You have an amazing, enthusiastic young rabbi to take my place. I hope and pray that you will be supportive of her efforts. I am sure that she will not be a control freak like me, or as hopeless at delegating as I am. And I hope that you will support her and join with her in her efforts to help the Liberal Synagogue Elstree discover what it is, what it's for, and to implement that. I have no idea where or even if I'll be in 25 years' time, nor I fear do many of those attending tonight's AGM. If it is to survive, the synagogue must commit to discovering and engaging with those who will be. That is the challenge and the task. I wish you well.